Hello everyone! I hope you're ready for another adventure, because today, Wayne reads Curious George. Always remember that as we go through these amazing adventures and read these outstanding stories, all you have to do if you want to follow along is like and subscribe. Now I think that North Star will be perfect to join us for today's adventure. Now the North Star is here. Let's jump in, because today we get to read Curious George in the Big City. This is George. He lived with his friend, the man in the yellow hat. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. Today, George was in the big city. Let's stop here, George, his friend suggested. I would like to get you a holiday surprise before we see the sights. George loved surprises. He always wanted to get a surprise for the man with the yellow hat too. Why, here was a pile full of surprises all ready to go. Would one of these be right for his friend? George was curious. He opened a box and peeked inside. The box is empty. That was not a good surprise. George opened another box and another. They were all empty. Suddenly, the store clerk came running. "Stop, please," he cried. "You are ruining my display." But George did not want to stop. He wanted to go. He wanted to get away. Fast. Quickly, he climbed up on the escalator. George went up. The clerk went up too. What George wanted now was to find his friend. What luck! George spotted a yellow hat on the escalator going down. Could that be his friend? George wanted to find out. Soon he was going down too. George followed the yellow hat out of the store and around the corner. He chased it down some stairs. Where could his friend be going? Was this George's surprise? No, this was a subway. George got on the train just in time. He thought maybe his friend was playing a game with him, but where was his friend now? George looked around. The train was crowded. Could that be him on the other end of the subway car? It might be hard to get there, but not too hard for a little monkey. Suddenly the train stopped, and when the doors opened, the yellow hat disappeared. George followed as quickly as he could, but he was too late. This was not the surprise after all. This was a mistake. The yellow hat was nowhere to be seen. Poor George. He was all alone in the big city. How would he ever find his friend now? Soon, George could see nothing but legs. He was surrounded by a crowd of people moving, and he had to keep moving himself so he would not get stepped on. Then, George heard a woman's voice coming from the head of the crowd. "Going up," she said. Up? That was just what George needed. He needed to be high up, like in a tree or the escalator. Then he could get a good look around. George joined the crowd as they got into an elevator and went up. Here was a good lookout. From here, George could see a bridge, lots of tall buildings, and a little green lady standing in the water. But he did not see his friend. "It's time to go," called the woman from the elevator. "We have lots more to see." The crowd followed the woman. They wanted to see more. George wanted to see more too. Soon, George was on a big bus driving through the city. There was lots more to see, but no matter where George looked, he did not see the man in the yellow hat. Back on the bus, George looked round and round. Finally, he saw something familiar. George was excited. He rushed inside. He was sure he would find his friend here. Instead, he ran into the clerk. "You're just the one I've been looking for to help me fix this mess," he said. George felt bad. He had not meant to make such a mess. Could he rewrap the boxes? George took out some ribbon in one hand, and some paper in another, and some tape in a third. Then, like only a monkey can, he wrapped those boxes. Soon, a crowd gathered to watch. Everyone wanted George to wrap their boxes too. Just as George tied his 25th quadruple bow, he spotted his friend. At last, George was so happy. But when he saw that the man was carrying a present, George became sad. He'd forgotten all about the big surprise for his friend. Then he had an idea. "George!" exclaimed the man in the yellow hat. "What a good surprise." His friend was glad to see him. "I've been looking all over the store for you," he said. "And now I have a surprise for you too." George opened his surprise and put it on. It fit perfectly. "Now we're ready to see the sights," the man said. George held tightly to his friend's hand, and everyone waved goodbye. "Let's be careful not to be separated again," the man in the yellow hat said as they left the store. "The best part of the holidays is spending time together." George agreed. The end. Oh wow, that was a lot of fun exploring the big city with George. What did you think, North Star? I like that part too. We'll see you in the next adventure, okay? And we'll see you in the next adventure here with Wayne Reads. Thank you for joining us, and we can't wait to see you again. Bye-bye.